What's up, good people? How's everybody doing today? Listen, let's get into it. We're challenging truth over trend. We're challenging, we're going to value principle over opinion. I am tasked with one thing, or no, I'm tasked with many things. But one thing that I am passionate about is I am passionate about communicating information and allowing you to make a decision based on the information that you've been given. Not telling you what to think, but telling you, giving you the information and making a decision from there. Birthright citizenship. Let's talk about it. I am not one who is of the mindset that a president or a political group should do something for one specific people group. But what I know is that in Black culture, most African Americans, Black people, the big question is, what you gonna do for Black people? President Trump has been criticized on many levels, and some rightly so. Like, what president is going to do everything right? They are not. But he has been criticized by many Black Americans who believe that President Trump is a racist. Not only do they believe he is a racist, they believe that he is going about destroying everything in the Black community. Now, I respect their position. I have my thoughts and opinions about that. As it relates to DEI, well, I thought, and I was under the impression that every job I got because I earned it, because it was merited. That's what my understanding was, especially when I saw the numbers that were connected to DEI, right? I do understand that, of the workforce, or of, the numbers that were calculated, white women were a larger people group. So of course they would be, overrepresented in that number, but the fact still remains. I am under the impression that when I go for a job, I'm selected based on my ability to do the job, not because of my race or my gender. Now, I do know that there are organizations who pushed things, who pushed or made race and gender of higher priority than actual skill set and ability, which is concerning for me as a consumer, as a person in the world. I don't want a pilot just because it's a Black woman. I want a pilot that is qualified. I just do. I don't want a doctor just because they're Indian American, and the Indian American is what we have to do to fill our DEI quota. And I pass up a good Black doctor for the Indian American, or the good white doctor for somebody whoever may have struggled in school, but we have to push them because, not because they earned it, but because we have to check this box. Many are concerned about all of the civil rights monuments or civil rights things that are threatened in the Smithsonian, yada yada yada. The last time I read or checked into any of that, I didn't see where anything was removed. I saw that it was under review. Now, here's my take on that. Why are you arguing about only being a slave in the story? You do know that your ancestors don't just have sweat equity, but they have equity in Washington. They helped to shape and to form this country that we live in. I sit here today and I am we the people because of the sweat, because not just the sweat equity, right? But the equity that was poured into Washington and helping develop our country by Black citizens, people that went to various parts of government on a federal, state, and local level. Why are you arguing to only be a slave in the story? Why are you not taking the initiative to rewrite American history and make American history in color? Because Black history is American history. I am and will be a part of a larger story. There was a documentary that was finally released about Barbara Jordan. Barbara Jordan was a monster. And when I say a monster, I say that in the most positive way. Barbara Jordan was poised. Barbara Jordan was polished. Barbara Jordan was educated. And Barbara Jordan was a force to be reckoned with. I do not see that in our Black leaders in Congress today. I see a lot of combative, angry Black women. Barbara Jordan and Shirley Chisholm were the types of political leaders that made the men around them look at their wives differently. Barbara Jordan worked with 90 to 95% white men. And you never see her on camera talking about white supremacy. That's why I'm super confused when it rolls off people's tongue like water in the year of our Lord 2026. Barbara Jordan was far closer to white supremacy structures that could be identified. Not this, I ain't afraid of no ghosts, Ghostbusters white supremacy structure that people are, chasing now. No, it could be identified. It could be identified in this person. It could be identified in this system. It can be identified in that structure. It could be identified. What these folks are talking about now is not even white supremacy. It's you wanting rampant fraud to continue in Minnesota. So you accuse the president of being a racist by calling out a people group that has been found to be guilty of fraud. And him making a statement about the country they live in. Would it have been a statement that I made? No. But is the statement factual? Barbara Jordan, when people spoke things about Barbara Jordan, when the white men, because it was white men, when the white men spoke about Barbara Jordan, they used words like polished. They used words like a force to be reckoned with. They used words like a trailblazer. They used the most incredible, uplifting words about a Black woman. She wasn't combative. She wasn't angry. She believed in her Constitution. And she was for Americans. Unlike the current Democratic Party that exists today. So I struggle when I see the people that they want me to turn my eyes to and respect as a political leader. You have no platform. Your platform, Black people, whenever we are talking about Black people as a people group, not too far behind that is Medicaid, is food stamps, is welfare services and products. Why are you okay with being associated with those types of things? So Black people we did not just provide sweat equity in the country. We also were co-laborers, and we co-labored in building the country from a legislative perspective. So why are you arguing to only be the slave in the story and worried about somebody removing a slave monument when we now have the Frederick Douglass Communications Room in the White House? That's my thought about that. My thought about birthright citizenship. Birthright citizenship was birthed out of the fact that it was birthed after Reconstruction, but there were people who were born to slaves that were being repositioned and they were being given place in society. In society, you are not positioned based on your color. You are positioned based on your status. So in an effort to position and prop people, Africans up and their descendants up in the country, they made them citizens by naturalization, or citizens if you were born here. It has now morphed into what we all know to be anybody coming into the country. Anybody coming over into the country. It's a business in California. People come over as illegal immigrants, stay in a house, have their children. They now have a child that's an American because of birthright citizenship, something that was never intended to be used in this way. It was intended for slaves to position them in society. Somehow, the Democratic Party has pushed black and brown down your throat, and you have people like Jasmine Crockett arguing to say that the president is a racist, that he's trying to take people's civil rights away, or he's trying to take away constitutional amendments. It needs to be gone because there are no more slaves other than the people that you're trying to make slaves, undocumented immigrants. Now, there were people who arrived in America on slave ships who did not make the decision to come. They were sold into slavery by other African groups. So they didn't have a choice but to be here. But there are people who literally walked across the border and made a decision to come here because of the advantages America has. And an illegal immigrant, a person who is here illegally, who does not pursue the legal pathways of immigration, should have the same rights and privileges as American citizens. Now, listen, I am not blind to anything, right? This is just yet another thing that the Democratic Party is advocating for illegal immigrants. It's not for you. It's not for Black people. And here it is. The racist president is fighting for the integrity of that amendment. The 14th Amendment was birthed out of slavery. Let me read it to you. The 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution was ratified in 1868. It is the cornerstone of the American civil rights law. Enacted during Reconstruction, it defines citizenship and prohibits states from denying any person due process or equal protection under the law, profoundly shaping federal, state regulations and civil liberties. This was an effort to position children born to slaves in society in a different way. You gain the rights and privileges as an American by being a citizen. That's what you do. Let's talk about this a little more. So the president shows up to the Supreme Court hearing today. That's seen as an intimidation factor. That's seen as anything other than the president being concerned about the American people. I don't understand that. And like they said, I guess it's being said that he's the first president in 150 years to attend a Supreme Court hearing. He is protecting the integrity of this amendment in its original state, which was for slaves, to all the blackity blacks who believe that the president is racist and the president is trying to destroy everything that has to do with black and blackness. This is something he's trying to protect. But there are those who are so brainwashed that they would believe this is also him trying to, this issue being pushed is an anti-black, anti-whatever practice. No, this is a clean example. This is a crystal clear example of the Democrats fighting for their constituents, which are illegal immigrants. There are two types of birthright citizenship. There's a citizenship that you obtain based on being born on U.S. soil, which is the right of soil. And then there's birthright there's citizenship where you are a citizen because your parents are citizens. Which one of those do illegal immigrants coming here fall under? None of them. because the language that's being challenged in the Supreme Court is subject to the jurisdiction thereof. People that have not pledged their allegiance to America through the path of legal immigration have not subjected themselves to the jurisdiction thereof. And here's the thing, we're not thinking about the financial responsibility or the financial burden that this places on Americans. When an illegal immigrant comes to America, they have a child here. Of course, I don't see too many, illegal immigrants coming over here, with their Blue Cross Blue Shield from Venezuela, because ain't none. Right? Why would I need that when I can come over here and get full benefits? So you're coming up over creating a tax burden to the citizens of the United States, by the way, U.S. citizens had no say in the border being open. Nobody talked to me about it. I mean, I didn't vote on it, right? But it's something that we have to deal with now. So now this child is being born and is a citizen based on birthright citizenship. But now this is where that narrative comes into play, where, they are removing United States citizens because you have an illegal immigrant parent and a United States citizen that now either have to make a decision to leave or make a decision to be the custody of the United States based on what the parent did, which we now have to carve out tax dollars either way, to deport them or to take care of them. Me personally, I will be glad when Donald Trump gets out of office, because I don't know what the Democrats will do. Like, they won't have a political platform, because right now their entire political platform is combating and being an obstacle to the progress that President Trump is trying to make. Not just that, anything that is anti-American and anti-Christ is what they are pushing. The State of the Union address. We should at least be able to come together to understand that the United States citizens that voted us in office are the people that we are responsible to. And their hatred for the president is far greater than their allegiance to America and the U.S. citizens that voted for them. The president had to sign an executive order to pay TSA, and now they're challenging, or it's being said that they're going to sue the administration for paying TSA. You're going to sue the president, and ICE is funded through I don't know when. You're doing this why? And if we take a good look at the way ICE is handling things, ICE has never had to deal with people showing up while enforcement is happening. They've never had people interjecting or obstructing justice while enforcement is happening. They didn't have people that were aggressors. They literally have a country that has been mobilized against them, against a government agency. And that is by design. Because we care more about disrupting progress for Americans than we do about what is right and lawful. I know we keep having these no kings parades, but I'm starting to think, no, here's what I know. They want a king. They just want to choose it. They questioned when Maduro was captured. You talk the king? I thought y'all ain't like kings. The gentleman in Iran, I can't think of his title, his official title, right? But the man in Iran, they mourned over that. Most of y'all would be dead. I thought we didn't like kings, but we like kings. Oh, we just want to pick the king. Okay. So, birthright citizenship needs to be reconsidered. That is an amendment that needs to be reconsidered because we don't have slaves, number one, and we're so far from Reconstruction. Who is benefiting from this? Illegal immigrants. Because a person that has pursued a legal pathway to citizenship, this is not an issue. Guess what? They still have citizenship. They still have citizenship because they were born on U.S. soil and or their parents are in a protected citizenship class. And again, the president is saying this was something that was done for slaves and is now being used for something else. But there are so many that are so brainwashed. I was thinking about the city of Detroit, and when I was growing up, the congressman was John Conyers. And I can remember John Conyers. John Conyers was so handsome, even as, a teenager or a little kid. I remember seeing John Conyers in the community. I worked in this little pizza shop at the local market down the street. John Conyers came in there and got a slice of pizza. John Conyers could be seen in the city of Detroit doing things for the city. John Conyers has the city of Detroit in mind. He had the city of Detroit in mind. I think his wife sat on the city council too. Rashida Tlaib replaced him. Rashida Tlaib could care less about the city of Detroit. Rashida Tlaib is totally invested in opposition. She is a foreign national invested in opposition. Here's another thing. I just don't understand because we play the race card when it's convenient for us. They are pushing black out and bringing in brown. I am not a person that's big on race and racism and racist practices. I am not, but I'm watching something here and it's concerning to me because we watched Barack Obama go around, right, and have conversations and talk to black men about voting for a black woman. It's time for a black woman. Let's get a black woman in there. He berated men about a black woman. Black men felt like, no, that's not for us. That same man came back when it was time to elect the governor of West Virginia. There was a black woman running and there was a white woman running. Anybody want to guess who Barack Obama told people to vote for? The white woman out of West Virginia, who was his Democratic colleague. So we use the race card for what we want, when we want. You want me to be incited and enraged when I see racist practice, but at the same time, subtly, cunningly pushing them on me and expecting me to swallow it. So then it's not really about justice. It's not really about civil rights. It's about certain parties remaining in power. I'm not of the mindset that a president should do something for a people group because here's the thing. At one time, there was justice needed for slaves and the descendants of slaves. That there was justice needed, right? But then there was a time where that justice and that upholding, or I don't want to say that justice, there was a time where those, what is the word I want to say? Holy Spirit, help me. There was a time when those helps or supports should have stopped because they become pathways for evil. Yeah, they become pathways for evil practices. This birthright citizenship has become a pathway for burdensome responsibility on Americans. And I don't want to leave that behind for my grandchildren. I don't want to leave that behind for my great-grandchildren. They leave behind a country that is in debt and in disarray and dismay. Again, I'm not one to believe a president should do something for a people group. I believe presidents and those that serve in government should work for the American people. I am we the people. I am. I was thinking about the whole issue about birthright citizenship and all of the conversation around it, or all the conversation around slavery. And it's kind of like my great, 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 great grandfather used to beat my great, 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 great grandmother. And as a practice in 2026, we go around hitting each other in the head just to keep the practice alive, or just to keep the idea of oppression or the idea of domestic violence alive. None of us in this lifetime understand what the slaves experienced or the generations thereafter. Honestly, it's embarrassing to me today to hear people communicate as if they were born on a plantation, when during the Reconstruction Act, people literally, I'm going to say this until I'm blue in the face. People literally left plantations, reconciled with their families, built communities, went off into governments, and they did all of this without the amount of federal protections that Black Americans have here today. I don't get to talk about and memorialize what my grandmother, my great grandmother, my great great grandmother did, because I don't live in that time. The best thing I can do is live the highest and brightest future that they would have dreamed of living. Birthright citizenship is literally something that the president is doing, or challenging birthright citizenship, because it was something that America did to reposition Black America, to position them in society, to right the wrong. And you got Black people who are unlearned, unstudied, won't take the time to weigh out a matter, won't do any of that. But they're just going to take the narrative that mainstream media gives them. And when I tell you it is a narrative, it is a narrative. It goes out one band, one sound, one message. The messaging is messaging. If you're a Black person and you're in this fight arguing about, today, I was in Children's Hospital, and in front of me and my daughter was this mother who looked to be of Hispanic descent. Her baby, she was pregnant, and a young man who couldn't have been more than 10 years old. He couldn't have been more than 10 years old. She got up to the window at the pharmacy and she communicated with the pharmacist, but there came a point in the conversation where she could not speak English, or she could not communicate with the pharmacist in a way that she would understand what she was saying. So she had to look to her son, the less than 10-year-old, to translate for her. I felt sad for that child. I felt really sad for that child, because he probably wanted to be somewhere playing Roblox. He probably wanted to be somewhere outside playing, but he has to go conduct business and take care of business with his mother, because it's a possibility that she is here as an illegal immigrant, and she has to, and clearly he was born in America because he's fluent with English. And you know what? This was during, the kids must be out of school. Okay. But this was during, daylight hours where one would be in school. But she has to communicate. And I mean, he has to communicate for his mother because there's a language barrier, because she can't speak English well. And so we want to continue these practices. Of course, the situation could be anything. But more often than not, It's probably a situation where there is some kind of undocumented scenario, right? This woman is over here with her less than 10-year-old son. She has a baby in the stroller that's very, very angry, that's kicking and screaming. And me and my daughter like, whoop, 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 twisting the skin like, because what you're going to do is you act like you got some sense in public. She's slamming her head in the stroller and she has a stomach full of baby. The lady literally looked overwhelmed. I felt bad for her because the baby would have got a little whoop, whoop. Because she was old enough. Her legs was dragging the ground in the stroller. But her son had this responsibility and burden to communicate for how much is his language developed. We create situations like this when birthright citizenship is left on the table as is. This young lady possibly had not pledged her allegiance to America. She's not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, but she's here and she's insured. And she possibly is not wondering where her next meal comes from. All of these are assumptions, but all of them are real life scenarios that we know happen. I can think of tons of veterans, Americans, many people who could probably use these resources. But we now have a burden because we have a burden of responsibility because we have an American citizen who is less than 10 years old, now a baby, right, that's in a stroller. And if ICE comes and they come to her house, you have a U.S. citizen and you have an undocumented immigrant. So now Tom Holman is responsible for saying, hey, what you gonna do, right? And mainstream media is gonna say, oh, they kidnapped and killed the kids. Because as Americans, we're conditioned to believe that everybody that came to America was seeking asylum. Not only was everybody seeking asylum, we had no right. We should not have done anything in their home country to make things better, to return them back to a better situation. We got a problem with that too. Birthright citizenship should be reviewed because it's not a tool. Somebody else's pain, something that was birthed in from the pain of African slaves or Americans who did not have an equal place in society, should not become a gold card or a welfare ticket or a means for somebody to come into America illegally. Consider that. Think about that. And I'm going to finish up with this as it relates to a biblical worldview. The Bible says, straight is the way, narrow is the gate. The Bible also speaks clearly about what you have to do to be born again. The Bible talks about how you enter the kingdom of God. The Bible also talks about anybody that comes in outside of the way is a thief and a robber. Heaven has boundaries. Do we think it's a good Christian to allow somebody to access something, usurping the power structure or the authority that others have gone before them and paved the way to gain? Do we think there will be illegal immigrants? And when I say illegal immigrants, I'm talking about people who don't have citizenship in heaven. Not citizenship in the States, but you have not done what you were supposed to do to gain citizenship to heaven. Do you think they're going to be citizens, non-citizens, people who got judged? Okay, judgment, you go to hell forever. You think it's going to be people sneaking up in heaven or in the new heaven and the new earth? Do you think that? Okay. I'm going to let you think it. Follow me on all my social media platforms. Leave a comment, a like. Let me know what you think. Okay. Let's have some dialogue. Do me a favor. If I ain't thinking right, tell me how I should be thinking. Not really, but let's just engage in the comments. Okay. Love y'all. Bye.